Okay, let's talk about the FIBA World Cup. I don't know how much interest there's going to be in this, but these are some good basketball games. We'll talk about USA losing to Lithuania. We'll talk about a crazy Canada versus Spain game. But let's talk about USA Lithuania first. So, of course, Team USA, they're still in the thing. They're going to the quarterfinals now, as well as Lithuania. Lithuania's three-point shooting and their offensive rebounding and also their attacking Austin Reeves in the post were probably the three biggest takeaways of this thing, with Monty Eunice getting him, I think, twice on switches, and then Karanauskas, I think, got him on two different three-point plays. Both were just drop steps, classic back down, and that's that. Their drop defense and their physicality fighting around screens mattered as well, and we'll get to that, but yeah, the three-point shooting was definitely the biggest, and the most memorable was that one by Kuzminskis, where Ant pretty much had the ball all but stolen, and then he hits like the craziest desperation turnaround three you could imagine over him with like no time left on the shot clock. But I also thought, especially early in the game where Lithuania was like really dominating and they were like 8 for 8 from 3 at one point, they just had a bunch of creative sets that USA wasn't ready for. One time they double Valanciunas in the post and it's like skip and then swing to a wide open top of the key three. They ran a couple of like nice pick and pops with Valanciunas, and Jaren was clearly like daring him to make some jumpers, and he made some early. Lithuania would have some nice, like, creative, like, Spain-type pick and rolls, just multiple screen actions, and then it's just kind of some slow closeouts. There was also one transition three that Lithuania got where Halliburton was the closeout guy, and he was just, like, a little too slow to do anything on it. It was just a really rough start of the game for Team USA. I also think on the other end, Lithuania, they were mostly playing drop. They were being really physical, getting around screens. This was early on, and Team USA was kind of playing into their hand because they just ran a bunch of, like, simple pick and rolls up top. It wasn't until the second half where they started getting into more, like, off-ball sets for Mikal Bridges and some empty corner actions with like Jaren Jackson and Jalen Brunson to just kind of spice up the variety a little bit. Jaren got his one bucket of the game, which was a three off of one of those, and then the other one, I think it led to like Jaren hitting somebody with a skip pass. It might have been Edwards for a catch and shoot. I don't remember exactly. And then, of course, you had Anthony Edwards, who continues to look fantastic throughout this entire tournament, where, I mean, dude, the amount of pull-up jumpers that he made in this game, because we all know how athletic he is, and just flow of the game, transition stuff, beating guys in one-on-ones, getting downhill, of course, but man, Lithuania was daring him to make shots, and he was making shots. And his ball pressure, like defensively, was also huge as well. But still, Lithuania won, and sure, you can look at some of the three-pointers they made, and you go, well, the odds of them doing that again are not very high. I mean, sure, some of them, although funny enough, there was 1-3 by Halliburton that went in that like hit the back iron and somehow dropped right in. But also, like, Lithuania just outplayed him in some ways. Like, that physical fighting around screens with Valanciunas dropping back. And then they did get selective with how they were helping out of, like, the opposite corner and stuff. But all that just made a lot of the Team USA ball handlers uncomfortable between Halliburton and Brunson. I mean, Brunson and Halliburton's stats, like, they weren't horrible. Like, they had, like, a good amount of assists and stuff. But especially early on, it was tough for him. I mean, sure, I remember Brunson, as well as Ingram, hitting a couple of pull-up jumpers late against it, so they figured it out somewhat, but especially early on, again, it was tough for him. And then once again, getting at Reeves in the post, like Monty Eunice had him at least one time on a switch, and that was like an easy just dump off to him for, if not a three-point play, then at least a bucket. Karanauskas also got Reeves in the post what felt like multiple times, hitting him with like a drop step or whatever. And then the offensive rebounding, which I do think could be a common theme for the USA moving forward here, where look, I mean, they're typically going one big, whether it's, Jaren, obviously, who's starting, and we're always going to see with its foul stuff. Walker Kessler's going to play some minutes. They got Paolo at the 5 some. They got Bobby Portis there some. But also, depending on if they're going to get into their switching defense or not, then that can pull the one big away from the paint. And, Josh Hart, he's great. He also can't grab every single rebound. Now let's talk about Canada versus Spain. And, man, that fourth quarter comeback, you had SGA cooking. You had Dylan Brooks making some tough shots. You also had a Canada defense that pulled off some impressive plays that I do want to talk about. But I do think you got to start with SGA. I mean, that long two-pointer he had where Brooks set the screen and he got the switch, and then it was just straight up a step-back long two, like, a minute left or whatever. To give him the lead was massive. You had the play where he busts out, like, a between-the-legs dribble at basically the paint as he got his defender on his back to get a three-point play. Like, SGA is just so damn crafty, man. And also, he was gutsy as hell making all the free throws down the stretch. And, for Spain's sake, I guess all you could say is, like, maybe you should have doubled him more. But, he was making some just difficult shots. Similar thing with Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks, he had 3 threes in the fourth quarter. 2 of them were catch and shoots. One of them was basically just a nothing is happening, I'm going to shoot this, and it drops in. One of them, he got a switch, and he just shoots it with the defender in his face. Goes right in. Like, all the Dylan Brooks shots that can sometimes be frustrating, we'll put it like that, they all went in that fourth quarter. He also had like one or two really physical drives. And then defensively, I mean, I think that Canada's switching in the fourth there was slowing down Spain's offense some. Even then, like they had a couple plays where they were able to get it to whether it be like Aldama cutting or like Hernan Gomez in the post to draw like a foul or something. But there were also times where they had to just get a tough shot. And like, sure, Santi Aldama had a couple of tough threes off of like a pick and pop. And I mean, the Grizzlies should be very intrigued by Aldama's game here. But yeah, like there was a couple where like one where three guys on Canada, I think it was Dwight Powell, SGA, and Brooks, all had great transition defense to force, I don't remember who it was for Spain, but they traveled on what otherwise would have been like a fast break layup. One time where Dylan Brooks rotates pretty damn heavy to the baseline to force, I think it was Nunez to go out of bounds. RJ had one real great defensive possession. I forget who the ball handler was. It might have been Brizuela. I don't remember exactly. My bad. But they rejected the screen, and so then RJ was forced to basically play drop coverage because they kind of caught him in between when he was planning to switch. He just had a great straight-up contest at the rim, forced the miss. We're going the other way. SGA was like chasing Nunez on a similar play late there, and then Lou Dort's helping really aggressively. They forced a turnover there. Like Canada, the effort and the game plan and just general switching defense, and then SGA and Dylan Brooks making tough shots the other way. It was a hell of a fourth quarter. I was also a big fan of, I think this was in the third, there was a back-to-back thing where like SGA was in the post, and then he found Kelly Olynyk for two straight deep three-pointers. I was like, it was a nice little moment. So yeah, and so for the quarterfinals, we got Lithuania and Serbia. We have the USA versus Italy. The USA should win that game. And then we also have Canada versus Slovenia. We're going to get Luka versus SGA. I think that is going to be the most entertaining game of this next round, or maybe I'm just hoping it is. I don't know. I mean, hell, for all we know, Germany, Latvia could be like a triple overtime thriller. I don't know.